The key loses to Frazier, racing ahead of the field. Frazier made the steal. Frazier out of the back court, and Ward looking very cool. Running one-hander. It's good. Stolen by Frazier. Down the lane with the floater, but it's good. West across the midcourt, loses to Frazier. Drives ahead of the field, down the lane. Layup is good. The New York Knicks have won the 1969.
Welcome back to the Wine and Dime Podcast, the podcast where we drink wine and talk hoops. I'm Chris and that's Lyndsay, and the New York Knicks are NBA champions. Honestly, I was thinking about this earlier. There was a time when if you asked me if the Knicks would win one in my lifetime, the best answer I could have given you was a strong maybe. A strong maybe. And I'm not even pessimistic about my lifespan. I was expecting to make it to at least 70. And I was like, you know what? I can't promise you. I can't promise you it'll happen.
I mean, to be fair, there were a lot of years there where James Dolan was still making unhinged speeches, but the team wasn't going anywhere. And it's easy to think that. I mean, to be honest, I can empathize with that feeling as a Raptors fan, because until 2019, I also probably never felt that we'd get there. And we didn't even have the decades of, we did have plenty of organizational dysfunction, but different. And just that lack of hope. And especially because in New York, it's a sleeping giant where it's you have this incredible fan base, and then watching them actually get to unleash has been really fun. And it's been really fun. Raptors fans are why are people so happy for Knicks fans? And I'm use your heads. I mean, aside from the Raptor element of it with OG, it's still just honestly, how can you not be happy for Knicks fans? I don't know.
They're in such a weird situation, right? Because it's been a billion years, but Knicks fans are kind of an interesting combination of optimists and pessimists.
Yeah.
I didn't get to grow up in New York, but I think I got very lucky that, especially in the early 2010s, got to be part of a lot of Knicks online communities, and got to, because I was always the only Knicks fan that most of my friends knew, and this was an opportunity for me to connect with other Knicks fans outside of the family. And I think there was always a mix of incredible optimism in the sense of man, if Lonzo Trier gets hot tonight, we might win this game. Or man, Damian Johnson really showing something. He could be a rotation player when we finally win 40 games in 5 years. But and also the pessimism of just man, the team is so badly mismanaged. Back in the day, James Dolan, we're going to win the championship this year speech would have been with the implication of, because I signed Jerome James and Eddie Curry. You know what I mean? It used to be a very different sort of expectations from the top of the organization that were wildly unrealistic. And I think even this time, a lot of us, when Dolan at the beginning of the year said that he expects us to win the championship, or at least play in it, I think even a lot of us were hey man, conference finals is cool. I think I'd be pretty with that.
I think especially that comment came after the Thibodeau firing, and it was just this weird we just got to the conference finals after forever, can we chill? So then different. But Mike Breen was definitely, when he was on the Zeclo pod during the finals, he talked about, it was right before the finals actually, and it was really cool, obviously, to have him on that podcast. It was cool listening to him talk about just his years as a broadcaster, and especially because he's been the Knicks broadcaster specifically for so long. And then, honestly, I'm actually genuinely happy for Mike Breen that he got to call the finals too, because that's really cool. It's the team he actually calls on a day-to-day, on a game-to-game basis. But he talked about how that exact mix of optimism and pessimism, because he talked about how as a broadcaster during those seasons of 17 wins, it's fans would come to him and say you're being too harsh on so-and-so. And he's well, broadly gestures at the court, what?
We won 20 games. What do you want?
And the fans, but to his point, he was to this fan's point, he's these people still show up and watch, and I have to give them a reason to turn on the TV and watch. And so I can't be also spewing a ton of negativity all the time, because people are wanting to see the young players play. It's holding on to that optimism in a shitty season. And I've obviously been through it with the Raptors over various periods, and even these last couple years, it's eventually the vibes are just, and especially with this intentional tanking shit, it's the vibes just get so low. You're I don't want to pay attention anymore. Even no matter how hard Matt and Jack try, that doesn't make the team interesting. I'm out. I can't imagine doing that for a decade, basically, and then also having that false hope of free agents being brought in, or big trades, or an owner who wants to swing big. At least we always had owners that kind of didn't, right? So it made it easier in some ways, whereas your owner just swung big and missed all the time.
Yeah, the problem with the Knicks is that a lot of their worst seasons were not them intentionally being bad. They were not shedding salary and trying to get to the bottom of the standings. They were swinging for a last gasp playoff spot in desperation by signing aging vets, and then just sucking.
Or
the pieces didn't fit, player declined too much, and they just weren't good enough. Just bad organizational strategy from the top down. And so,
100%.
yeah,
Plus,
it was hopeless for a long time. Most of the time I was watching for the bulk of like the 2010s, I was watching for Breen and Clyde. And that's why I'm so happy for them specifically.
yeah.
There was an ad where it was Clyde, like he talking about, I've thrown so many passes, and then he talked about like passing the torch, and it shows Clyde throwing a pass, and then it cuts to Jalen
Jalen
Brunson,
Brunson.
and I was like, oh no, it's dusty in this room.
Did
Oh
you
no, like
did you see those photos that Nike put up in Times Square of that?
I didn't go through Times Square, but I did see some like inspirational billboards and shit
So
near
the one
MSG.
they put that up. They basically on
Yeah.
one billboard it shows Clyde passing, and then on the
Oh yeah,
next
yeah, yeah. I saw a
Brunson
picture
making.
online. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, that's what I meant. Like even online, just having seen that because obviously you can't be everywhere at once. But that was really cool. Yeah, that kind of stuff is always neat. I'm so happy for Clyde and Mike because it was just like it's nice when you get to see team like the broadcast team and like all the people who've been around the team, like all the people who work at MSG, like all the people who like have been around the team for so long too. It's just exciting. And it was so cool seeing all the former Knicks basically, like Patrick Ewing, like celebrating cathartically as if he had just won. But
Yeah.
it basically was him finally winning, It's just like I feel like this team also, the fact that it was so well embraced by the veteran, like by the old Knicks, and it was so like everyone feels like they're living through this team is really fun and cool.
Yeah, the once a Nick, always a Nick thing sounds really corny, but they really do keep a lot of these guys around the organization. Not just legends like, John Starks, Patrick Ewing, even some guys whose tenure with the Knicks ended, on a sour note with a trade or whatever. And some of these guys, even ones you don't necessarily expect to be still in the orbit, like Stephon Marbury and guys like that. They do a really good job of keeping these guys around. And I think, going into this, I think I was like, the Knicks win the championship, I'm gonna cry. Like I was like fully like, I'm gonna cry. And when we won it, it really was just like pure like joy and like release and
Yeah.
celebration. And I like the tears,
Did you
I
cry?
got emotional, but it didn't happen in the way that I thought it would. But it was the
Okay.
next
Yeah, yeah.
morning I saw a video of Patrick Ewing hugging Karl Anthony Towns. And I saw the look on Pat's face and I was like, there it is. Like that's,
Yeah.
and it was like him feeling what all of us felt. It felt like it was his championship, even though he wasn't on this team.
Yes.
Even though he hadn't been a Knicks since, the trade in like 2000. It felt like he had won it. He said this made up for all of that. And
Even
that's for him not even playing, you know what I mean? Like
that even made me
that shit
that
hit me
even made
hard.
my eyes dusty. That made my
Yeah.
eyes dusty. I mean, to be fair, I cry pretty easily, but still, but that feeling is really cool. Like, so when the Raptors won the championship, there's like a specific call like that Matt Devlin makes, and that's when I started crying. And I just like every time. And my friend took a photo of me, and it's the worst photo ever, but it is literally me just bawling my face off and sitting at his desk, like bawling my face off. And yeah, every time I rewatch the video and like hear Matt Devlin be like, Canada, like this one's for you and stuff. And then I just like instantly, even now, it's been, like 6 or 7 years and I still cry. And so it's like, it's such a cool feeling. And it's like how it hits you in the moment is super weird as a fan. So it's like interesting for you. It was more like the next day, but it is just so like, it's like an overwhelming number of emotions all at once. And you kind of feel like numb in a really strange way. It's like a good numb, but it's like you're just so overwhelmed with so many feelings that it's like, how do you even like, I don't know. It's hard to articulate it.
It was like, it felt like just like a release. And I felt like the whole city was just like releasing. Like there was almost an air of relief when we won it. And even though we were up 3-1 before the elimination game, I think there was just an air of like, man, a weight being lifted off the city. And what was crazy was just like, so obviously I grew up a Knicks fan my whole life, and I'd never even like really been to New York until like a week and a half ago. Conveniently got here
During
like
the
2
finals.
games into the NBA finals, basically, like during my team's first finals appearance since I was like 8 years old.
Genuinely
And
couldn't be better timing.
it was so wild because so usually when a team just takes over a city and like that's on everybody's mind, everybody's wearing the colors, blah blah blah. It's usually a place where there ain't shit else to do, right? One town team, I mean, I guess in the case of basketball, the Knicks were a one team town for a long time. The Nets, we don't really.
We don't talk about them.
Nah, go back to New Jersey. But like,
Go be the
it's usually
Swamp
like a small town, right? Like a small town. Like I went to college at Kansas State, 50,000 people, 23,000 students, and so the entire town revolves around K-State sports in a way that you couldn't really if there was other shit to do, or if there was another team anywhere in the town or anything else that mattered, right? It's like the stadium holds 50,000, the town is 50,000. Like that's the kind of place it is.
It's
So
kind of
on
like
game
how
day, buddy, store owners, blah blah blah, everything's perfect.
everything, yeah.
I came to New York and everybody was in Knicks gear. Like every single fucking person. Like mom in a stroller, construction guy, restaurant waiter, you know what I mean?
Well,
all kind of
even the
places.
jockeys,
Everything had
even
like
the
Knicks
jockeys at
stuff.
the Belmont were wearing Brunson jerseys, like
So
riding the horses for warm up. Like,
there were people. So my second night in town was when the Knicks lost Game 3 at home, and in that time, obviously there were people at the bar, a little disappointed, but we were still up, and there's a lot of people just saying with confidence, like the confidence I hadn't felt in a really long time. Knicks in 5, Knicks in 5, Knicks in 5, Knicks in 5,
yeah,
and that had like consumed the city so much that Knicks in 5 was being used in the way that like use like aloha, right? It was like how you start a
yeah, yeah.
conversation. You like, hey, Knicks in 5. You
But
end the
yeah,
conversation. You end a work call. Knicks in 5. Like you would just point at people on the street. Knicks in 5. Like it really just became like a greeting, a goodbye, a conversation breaker, like everything. Like people were just, is all anybody would talk about. And even afterward, you wouldn't even have to be in Knicks gear. Somebody would see you and just be like, hey, go Knicks. It's just like that all day. And like the Knicks took over the town in a way that you wouldn't expect from a place that has everything to do. And a place where the World Cup is fucking happening, right?
yeah.
A
I've heard
bunch of
some
ethnic
stories.
festivals are happening. Everything's happening.
I've heard so many stories of like seeing people either in like Knicks gear, like say like Knicks jersey, World Cup hat, vice versa. Like people are
Yeah.
just like embracing both. I mean, I do think the Knicks, though, like, I think the Knicks they're like the Lakers in that sense that they are so ingrained in basketball just in general, right? It's so ingrained in the culture of New York that it makes sense that it can take over a place like that in a way that some football, especially because like New York is famous for people, going for like Rucker Park and all these places, like going to the
Yeah.
park to play. And that's, I think, where basketball, like we talked about with, everybody's played basketball at some point, which is where like the fouling comes in, where it feels weird, right? Where you're like, well, I don't know. I've played basketball and I wouldn't fucking do that. Or,
Yeah.
like
You
that
can't
kind
get
of
rid
thing.
of that
But
shit.
even, I think, was it Mike Brady? Somebody brought it up on the broadcast, though, how basketball, there's a connection with basketball because so many more people played basketball versus other sports. And especially in a city like New York, where it's like, it's so ingrained in the culture of the city that it does make sense that they're going to take over in a way that the Giants probably never could, or even when they win Super Bowls, right? Because football is just a harder sport to relate to, and it is a lot more of a
Yeah.
niche sport to want to like, even though it's like
It's
the most
more
popular sport in
spectator
America.
than,
Yeah, like
like,
even though it's like, yeah, it's like the most popular sport in America, but it's like, it also, I feel like there's just, you have to be more, I don't know, basketball is just an easier thing to sort of just pick up and be interested in. I don't know.
you can play pickup
You
hoops
can
until you're
understand
50.
what's
You can't
happening.
play tackle
No,
football.
right?
Most people
Exactly.
don't even have the physicality to play tackle football past like the age of 10. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, or exactly. So I just think basketball, the fact that it was a basketball championship and the Knicks is just like specifically with New York is what makes it so like big and important. With the Lakers, I think a similar thing, to be honest. But yeah, it's really cool. And I'm just like happy for people to get to experience that shit. And it's like, I think it's always cool for anybody to win a championship. Like it's fun to see, as much as like we hate on the Thunder but like seeing a city like Oklahoma City get to like the whole city show up and like get to have a good time. Like I always love watching parades because it is really cool to see, like, especially in smaller cities too, where it is the only thing. It is fun to see. You get to still celebrate that one team that you really give a shit about won. And then it's cool to see it on such an even larger scale in a city like New York, where everything, like the Historical Society has cat jerseys on fucking Frederick Douglass.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
cool.
it's crazy that like the most popping place in the world was still taken over by one event. Because like New York is a place where right now
everything.
the World Cup, the Tribeca Film Festival was happening. I've walked by that. Everybody still was Knicksed out. Everybody. And like I remember hearing I think it was about the one that Jones talking about it a bunch of years ago when the New York had the Super Bowl. It's like Super Bowl is just like another event in the city. Like you couldn't tell that the Super Bowl was here unless you already knew. And like, but no, you knew the Knicks were in the finals because everybody. I mean, people who had never heard a ball bounce in their life, never heard a sneaker squeak. Everybody was living and dying by the Knicks out there. I mean, after the game, like when the final buzzer sounded, dude, people were just outside just to be outside. Like people just wanted to be out and just wanted to feel it. Like we went to a watch party. It was packed, obviously, blah, blah, blah. Game finishes and we go outside and it's just hundreds of thousands of people. It was like the parade before the parade. It was literally just the streets were just packed. Like you couldn't even it was like shoulder to shoulder for blocks and blocks and blocks. And like it's the biggest city in the country already. So you're talking about like you're just walking by tens of thousands of people, almost everybody in Knicks gear, everybody just like yelling, dancing, celebrating, climbing on buses, setting off fireworks.
Yeah.
banging drums. Like people brought like equipment. There was a dude at the watch party who had a cardboard cutout of Karl Anthony Towns at the bar. Like people were like, people were super hyped. I've never seen anything like it. And like I said, I went to a college town where like the town was consumed by K-State sports. I was there for a conference championship where we beat Texas and won the Big 12. That was nothing compared to this. Like this was fun. It didn't even feel like pandemonium. I know people made the jokes that like, oh, they're gonna burn the city down. They're gonna tear the
No.
statue. So Tracy Morgan said they're gonna get the Statue of Liberty pregnant. Like it was crazy, but it
So crazy.
wasn't like a riot. It just felt like the world's biggest block party. It was
Yeah,
it was like you had a block party with your 300,000 closest friends. Like I probably dapped up 200 strangers. Like I'm not even kidding. I probably dapped up 200 people.
shit like that's really cool. And one thing I always regretted is that like watching the Raptors win the championship, like I wasn't even in like my home. Like I was in a different city for my grandpa was turning 96. So it was important, but it was just like weird I had to watch in like a much smaller city. Like, even where I live, there's only going to be like a small number of Raptors fans compared to like any other sport. But then being in an even smaller city, it's like me and maybe 5 other people. And so it's really weird when you're just like, you're celebrating and people are like just looking at you like, what the fuck? Like, well, it is a Monday. Like, what are you doing? And so it's cool that you got to be there for that because there's just something about getting to celebrate. And like, there's been a lot of discourse with the whole Klay Thompson, Meg Thee Stallion thing about how athletes really aren't that famous and sports fans think that sports are a bigger deal than they often are, which is genuinely for the most part true. But this was one instance where that's not the case, where like the sports are the city. Like it is the most important thing in the city. And it's really crazy, like you said, that it's a city like New York where there's always something happening for that to be the thing that took over.
53 years, man. I mean, it just felt like I don't want to necessarily like necessarily tie this too tight to politics because I mean, not that I'm like afraid of politics or whatever. I just don't think it's necessarily always one-to-one. But I do think that there's something to be said for just the recent wave of optimism in the city outside of that. With some of like, obviously, the Mom sign boost, right? With fucking, pre-K and like, they're fixing like the
Potholes.
garbage problem. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on that a lot of people feel really positively about. There's been sort of like just a wave of like general optimism. And, because the city had a lot of really fucked up mayors who didn't really give a shit about New Yorkers. And then in the same way that the Knicks had been mismanaged by guys who didn't really seem to give a shit about the long-term prospects of the Knicks. And for both of those things to sort of turn around, not quite simultaneously, because this Knicks rebound started probably 5 years ago, really. But for them to sort of crest at the same time, it felt really special. Like it really felt like there was just rainbows and fucking dolphins popping up just because the vibes were so good.
It is really funny that that the Knicks did this in Zoran's rookie year.
Rookie of the fucking year, man. Magic Johnson.
Yeah. No, it is pretty cool though. And it is funny that the only game they lost is because New York's most hated band was in the building. And it's not because they lost. It's not the reason they lost, but it certainly didn't help. And so it was super cool.
Since after game 3 of the Hawks series, the Knicks won every single game that Donald Trump was not. They had one of, not only did the Knicks win it, and as a team that I think most people thought were like second best in the East after Boston, heading in, not only did they win it, they smacked the shit out of everybody. They posted the best point differential in playoff history, and that's with the finals being as close as possible. They smacked the fuck out of the Eastern Conference.
No, it's true. They did what they had to. Like, and I mean, that's the thing is like, so I guess we should probably talk about the basketball part. Like leading into the series, everybody was like, that it's gonna, I mean, even we talked about it being closer than it actually was. And I think a lot of people did think the Spurs were gonna kind of walk to the championship because I don't think they saw the Knicks as being a real opponent to the Spurs, even though the Knicks have beaten the Spurs.
The Knicks did beat 2 out of 3 playoffs,
But I think that
NBA Cup champion New York Knicks, by the way.
I do think there's an element of the Spurs, just the way they beat the Thunder, like that kind of stuff. I think that probably there's a lot of bravado going along and like Wemby looked pretty unstoppable. But I think that the Knicks exposed what was probably always underlying is that like, I don't know if I'm talking about the Spurs for a minute or the Knicks first, but New York's defense. So the Knicks actually led the playoffs in offense and defense, which is crazy. They were number 1 through the playoffs in offense and defense, which is pretty wild. And that defense definitely exposed the Spurs in a way that almost no one else's defense could expose the Spurs. And it certainly exposed that the Spurs their offense was in trouble for a long time. It's just that the Thunder also couldn't score, so it kind of made it okay. But then you have a Knicks team who can put buckets. Because it's, even if Brunson, like, it wasn't really a Brunson series for most of the series, honestly. He was kind of not great. Like, he wasn't terrible, but
Yeah,
he just
it wasn't until it was, basically.
Yeah, basically. And he was always there in the fourth quarter when they needed him, but he wasn't really the main engine. Like, really, until the last couple of games, it kind of felt like Cat might get Finals MVP because
Or even
he
OG.
was, or even OG, but Cat was really carrying the team both on offense and defense. I mean, obviously so is OG, but OG's offense still comes mostly from opportunistic situations because he was left wide open, right, on that putback. Like, the Spurs defense made a mistake in allowing him to get that putback. And it's not that OG is a not talented player. He's too talented to leave open, but like we talked about, he's not that one-on-one ISO scorer, so you're going to load up on somebody else. But also, he probably was the person to pay attention to because Brunson's been struggling, so it's like...
Shit, he set the true shooting percentage for the record for the playoffs,
he had
man. OG was...
He had a crazy run.
Any opportunity he got, he cashed in on it.
Actually, quick thing on OG. I'm really happy for him. Like, so this is why Raptors fans are really happy for OG, other than obviously he played for us. But when the Raptors won the championship, OG had appendicitis right before the playoffs. And so he didn't get to participate in the playoffs at all, basically. He played like very few minutes in the entire run to the championship. So when we won the championship, OG didn't post photos with the trophy. Like, he didn't do anything to sort of celebrate the championship because he didn't feel like he got to contribute. And that was always something that sucked for both Raptors fans and for OG because we all wanted him to have been available, obviously, right? We all loved OG. And so it's really exciting to then get to see him not only like contribute to, the finals win, but be basically the reason that it got there, probably to some extent, because that putback definitely changed the course of the finals, in my opinion. Like, I felt after that putback, I felt very confident that the Knicks were going to take in Game 5. At no point in that game, even though they were down the whole game, did I actually feel like the Spurs were going to win. And had it gone the other way,
just close enough that I was like, they could happen again.
See, this is like the difference too between watching as like a neutral fan, because as much as I'm cheering for the Knicks, like, I'm not that stressed out about it because I also it's not my team, right? You can pretend to be invested all you want, but at some point, like, unless you've put in the work, you're not going to be that invested. So it's like, as a more neutral observer, it was like, after that OG putback, I just felt like there was no way, I don't know, in Game 5 that the Spurs were going to do it. And
yeah, not even the Knicks will blow a 3-1, man. Like,
yeah,
it's like we shook off decades of like just head ass shit and just like aim a team.
The Larry Johnson 4-point play could have, like that kind of thing, right? Like, those situations always happening against the Knicks. Now you have the moment that happened like to the Knicks in a good way. Yeah,
there was a stat about like teams records went down by like 20 plus in the second half of a playoff game. It's like, a few in a million, right? It's a horrendous record. And the Knicks have like almost a winning record in that situation in the last couple of years. Like, they have the number 1, number 3, and number 5 biggest comeback wins in NBA Finals history. In the same finals. It's fucking, and I don't, one thing about this team, man, they will do some goofy shit sometimes, but there is zero quitting them. And I know we've all seen that tweet that's come around lately about like the playoffs, about who's a bitch and who ain't. Hey, there's a lot of flawed players on that team, but not one of them's a bitch.
No, and I mean, to be honest, that's kind of like there's a bit of that going around of like, is Wemby a bitch? I don't think he is, to be clear.
I don't think they wouldn't have beat the Thunder if he was.
No, I don't think he is either. I do think that actually, I was listening to the Zach Lowe show
They wouldn't
today.
have beat the Wolves.
No. But I do think that there's obviously some things to talk about with the Spurs. Like, he was talking to Zach Lowe was talking to Jared Weiss today, and he talked about how like Wemby actually had like a terrible finals, if you actually think about it. Like, Zach graded him at like a B-, and Jared's like, I would grade him as like a C- because he actually had a very bad finals, which I don't know, that seemed a little extreme, but I guess also this person,
he had 5 blocks in the first.
Yeah. But this person also
race.
Covers the Spurs like on a day-to-day basis,
yeah.
And so he's around the team a lot, and so as a beat reporter, he's like when you know Wemby and know what he's capable of, I think that that's a fair assessment of like, yeah, he did not actually have a very good series.
He's trying to motivate him.
Yeah, but the other thing he brought up was that the Spurs kind of lacked an urgency in this series, all of them. Like, he's like, Victor was definitely just like all of them, but guilty of being too nonchalant in a lot of moments, and like a lot of his press conferences kind of gave that a little bit of like, we've been leading the whole time, like those kinds of things, like those kinds of comments. And it's like, obviously you're wrong, and he's just trying to like build confidence for his team. But I thought that Jared Weiss's point was really fascinating. Kind of interesting, though, of like, the whole team, with the exception of De'Aaron Fox, ironically, were like lacking the kind of necessary urgency in the finals. It was like those collapses, I don't know that you can really see them as anything other than that, because like that can't just be all youth. It's not, that comes from youth, is not understanding like the the moment or not feeling the moment necessarily. I don't really know what that is, but like, I don't know. Those collapses were like really interesting from like a mental perspective because it's not like they collapsed once. Like they were leading in almost every game. And then it's not a good look when you're out there saying, but we were leading most of the time. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You didn't get the win.
I felt like every team
know.
kind of give the Knicks that same treatment too. Like Cavs talking about, oh, we won the first 2 games analytically. You know, you got teams talking about, we think we're the better team, even though they were getting smacked. You got the Spurs saying, oh, we know we're going to come back and win, even though, you know, they were blowing leads. They were losing. And I think a lot of teams just kind of feel like they look at the Knicks players and they just don't see that like Jordan, like LeBron figure. And they just like, nah, they're not special. And then they sure enough end up getting smacked up when it matters. Like they find a way. It's like there's almost like a Pistons-esque, like a 04 Pistons-esque thing where it's like all these guys are every starter is either an all-star or borderline all-star. And like, obviously I think Brunson is a significantly better scorer than anybody on that Pistons team was at that time. But they look at the cast, they have that same thing where it's like, there's nobody to hide on. There's nobody to hide. Nobody you can just say, leave him alone.
I think there's also something to be said for being a team that has run into the walls, you know, like the Knicks have run into walls at various points in the playoffs as they've made this rise, right? Whereas the Spurs kind of didn't. Like this, it's pretty wild that they went from 40 wins last year to a 60-win team and like second seed, you know what I mean? Like their rise is almost like, it is unprecedented actually. I don't, for the most part, like a team that big of a jump in like year-to-year record and then in the finals is like pretty unusual. But something else that Jared pointed out was like, you know, obviously like Wemby was very open about this was the biggest like lesson of his life, but then he even made a comment about what pisses him off is having to wait another 100 days to get back to the finals. And the guys, and he was like, that also kind of smacked of like immaturity in the sense of like, who's to say you're coming back next year? Like, and that's like an interesting thing because like I'm sure the Thunder heard that and were like, you think you're going back to the finals? That's so cute. Like it's harder than it looks, and so it's gonna be. I'm super super curious to see how the Spurs are next year. Like, obviously, I really love Wemby, don't get me wrong. I just think like the conversation around him is very fascinating because it's becoming a little Caitlin Clark-ish where it's kind of like you either are a hater or you love him and you can't, it's just the staying culture thing where there's just not a lot of ability for like nuanced conversation in the middle. And I think it's like, I think we can all agree Wemby took his lumps and definitely got away with murder on a couple of occasions, but he's also not a bitch and he's also like not a dirty player. I don't think. I think he's immature and he lost his temper, but I don't think he's a dirty player any more than most players.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Wemby dirty player discussion or whatever. Like I think he's lashed out a couple of times, but I don't necessarily see him as like a headhunter in that way. But like, you know, it's going to be the topic of discussion for the next year as people kind of like, you know, grapple with the idea of him being the face of the league versus, you know, where they think he's a villain. I don't necessarily even like the idea of like a villain in basketball. I think it's a little silly, but you know, we do like to have players that we hate. Like that's how it goes. But he's not there yet for me. But like, I see why.
I don't think that I don't know. I also think it's interesting how we talk about international players in that sense too, though, because a lot of them don't run in the same circles as like, sorry, the dog here, very cute. But yeah, there's he doesn't, you know, like Victor doesn't run in the same circles as all the, you know, like the classic, like, you know, all these AAU guys know each other, like all that kind of stuff. It's been really fascinating seeing all this discourse come from people who complain about not seeing things in the 90s, now bitching about seeing things in the 90s. And you're like, well, boy, what do you want?
I do think
Wemby should have gotten called for a flagrant for what he did on Brunson, like
stepping under Brunson's leg. Oh, I was thinking of the.
Well, he got away with at least 3 flagrant fouls in the finals alone. Like he definitely should have gotten called for those, and probably should have been suspended for a game as a result.
A little bit of superstar treatment from the refs.
And if the series had gone on longer, he would have been suspended for a game because he definitely would have gotten that second flagrant or that extra flagrant. And I think that discussion needs to happen. But I think, honestly, I see Wemby a lot as similar to like Jokic as well, where I think a lot of it's going to come with maturity. Because like Jokic's first few years in the like when he was really ascending, like he was fucking terrible with the refs, especially. He would get mad at them for like not calling things, like tons of stuff like that. And I think that's what's happening with Wemby is he's sick of getting jostled in the paint, and then he overreacts. And the fact that he's a gigantic human being doesn't make it better. And then when it's a player like Brunson, who's also like 17 feet shorter, it's just more obvious. It's like in football where it's
battle for Luka. He even knows he's got to stop complaining to the rest, but he keeps doing it.
He keeps doing it. That's the difference. Jokic actually stopped and like made a point of like learning the refs' names and like being nicer to them so that when he does have a complaint, he's less likely to get teed up for something stupid. And Whereas Wemby doesn't really get teed up, but he retaliates. And it's like that probably will have to come out of his game a little bit if he's going to be, because I worry there is a bit of a like, he's definitely not Draymond, but I do think there's something to be said where like letting things slide for too long will create a situation where he will get away with things more and more that he probably shouldn't. And it's like, okay. I don't think he's a dirty player, but I do think he probably needs to be like punished a little bit more. Even not getting like even not a fine for like elbowing Nas Reed in the throat was just like, oh, okay, like whoa, chill. But yeah, I do think like from a game perspective, I think that this series showed what Wemby probably needs to like work on. He doesn't have the same, like compared to say like a player like Brunson. It's always harder for bigs, but he has the athleticism. He's still like, he needs post footwork. He needs to get a little stronger so he can be in the post, because entering the ball to Wemby has been kind of an interesting thing I noticed in that series where
guys like that have a lower center of gravity and they're thicker.
He doesn't have the strength to be on the low block to stay there to get the pass, but he also doesn't quite have that like post face-up game to catch like 18 feet and get into the paint like Jokic or some of those players, you know? Like he's missing that almost like in-between post game where if he gets into the paint and he gets 2 feet in the paint, you're cooked. But it's still it's not easy, but it's easier to keep him out of it because they can kind of push him out and things like that. And working on that part of his game, I think will be really huge.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be a limit to what he can do on the block, like as far as like traditional, because his ad. But I think the thing that would, and I don't remember if it was another player talking about LaMarcus Aldridge or if it was LaMarcus Aldridge himself talking about this, but it was a couple of years ago. LaMarcus Aldridge was talking about Wemby's potential, and he was saying that like what he needs is like an automatic like go to. If it's late game, shot clock winding down, I'm doing this shot.
He doesn't have
9 times out of 10, I'm doing the shot, and if they try to take it away, I have one counter to hit it with. And LaMarcus Aldridge had that fadeaway. If Wemby can become, whether it's a post fade like Dirk, or whether it's like a little like mid range, like a fadeaway like Aldridge or whatever it's got to be, even like a David West catch and shoot from 18. If he gets an automatic, just like
a
middle ground type of shot. If he becomes a consistent, like high-level KG type mid-range shooter, not even a Dirk, not a Kevin Durant, not that level of shooter, just a KG mid-range, David West mid-range, whatever, he'll be basically unstoppable because you have to leave the floor to contest his shit because he's so tall. And if you leave the floor,
he will dunk
he
on
dribbles it one time and he will dunk on your entire team and your entire fan base and everybody you know.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of more my point too. Like you said, he will always be, he's never going to be a low post player, and that's not really the expectation. It's just that kind of like getting the ball to him in those places, because their entire offense basically was hinged on whether Wemby got into the paint or not. Because if he didn't, their offense was cratering. And if he could, then they would score. But I agree, and that was like the point that I think it was Jared Weiss brought up in comparison to say like a player like Brunson. Like Brunson almost has the opposite problem where he's so short that he's had to like learn how to leverage everything, which is where his skill comes from, right? He's seen so much basketball his life growing up around it, and then being a short player and learning how to create space and footwork and whatever, and also going to a program like Villanova that teaches their guards to play in the paint with both feet, which is smart and paid dividends. But Brunson has those places he goes to on the court at the end of every game. He's got his spots, and he has a shot for those spots, and he can get there.
And you got counters for everything.
Exactly. And Wemby just doesn't have those spots yet, right? He doesn't have that signature move. He doesn't have, and it's not that everybody needs to have a signature move, but it's just having that spot that you can get to wherever it is on the court that's going to get you a chance to win, like that game winner that clanked off the rim, for instance, for him, right? Like that's a thing that's an area of growth in his game. And yeah, Spurs are going to be a really interesting team next year too, with just like the whole Fox dynamic, Dylan Harper's thing. I mean, I don't think Mitch Johnson coached a particularly great finals. I'm curious to see what his coaching leeway is going. They're obviously not going to fire him right now. He's like the anointed one after Pop, but I'm kind of curious.
At least
I'm kind of curious to see how much runway he gets though. Because at some point, I'm curious to see if people start to realize that maybe this was because of Wemby and not so much because of coaching or whatever, you know? Like, I think there was a combination of things in those collapses that weren't all the players' fault. Certainly, there was some obvious turnovers and things like that, and just like the players. But I do think there was coaching elements that, like, not a single adjustment was really made until it was way too late. Having a better bench will also help. He didn't have a ton of people to pull on, but still, I just feel like there was some questionable coaching decisions as well.
I think there was a little bit of, he was so young that whatever we do this year is gravy. You know what I mean? However far we go, we're going to see what these guys can take us. And then I think from there, you're like, okay, now how do we adjust? How do we make this a complete just unit, right? And you look at that Spurs team, not only is it a bunch of young guys, but it's also like it's a lot of non-shooters. Like this is a
Yeah.
team that needs to have Julian Champagnie on the court pretty much at all time for spacing purposes, and he's a fine player, but like he's also Julian Champagnie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? He is not Ray Allen.
exactly.
You don't want to have to play him 38 minutes a game. He's
No.
okay. You know, he's not even like necessarily
Yeah,
crazy. He's not even like a Steve Novak type shooter or anything. He's all right. But like if they need for sure another consistent shooter, they need some of the guys on their team, like Steph Castle, like Wemby, to get better at shooting. But also one thing they're missing, and it didn't really hurt them that much against the Thunder, but they don't really have a power forward. They don't have a single player on that team who is even power forward height, like in that range. Harrison Barnes kinda, but he's really a wing. The Knicks had OG, who is
and
he's a wing, but is really power forward sized. And they have Cat, who can play power forward and is center sized. And the Knicks can go double big in a way that the Spurs just can't.
The Spurs kind of give Cavaliers West in that sense, where they have the front court figured out and they've got their back court figured out, but they don't really that 3-4 position, not really a thing yet. Like they don't have like Keldon Johnson just completely disappeared. The three-headed monster of guards is all fun and games, and Castle's a beast, but they can only guard up so much. Carter Bryant was basically still a rookie, but unlike Dylan Harper, wasn't quite like ready for the moment in that sense. So he didn't really get to contribute. And you're right. This year was total gravy, like we're harping on the Spurs. But I think that's part of the problem, though, is that this year was gravy, but then they got all the way to the finals. So it's like you kind of have to treat them like they're a complete finals team, even though they're not. It almost would have been better for team building construction had they went out in like the second round, because they could have at least then been like, okay, great, now we have more of a ceiling, or even conference finals where they could have like, run up against the Thunder, lost, and then been like, okay, well now we, know what we need to fix. But the problem is that they just match up perfectly against the Thunder. So that's like it's not even a good bellwether, I guess, because it's like, well, obviously.
I think they'll do it regardless because they have a lot of like flexibility with salaries and cap and stuff, and they have some assets. So I think I'm not gonna I don't have any like intel, right? But I would love to see them. I'm not gonna throw names out there like I think they're gonna get this guy, but like there are players I look at and I'm like, man, if they could slot him in, they can make it. Like Lauri Markkanen would be a fantastic Spur. I don't know what the defense would look like in the playoffs because the Jazz they're in a perpetual tank and they never let themselves touch the playoffs.
The Jazz aren't going to trade him either because they just picked up Triple J, so they're trying to be good now. Remember?
Yeah. Well, they kind of play the same. Walker Kessler, somebody has to go, but Kessler doesn't really fit the Spurs as well. But like somebody of that realm would be fantastic. Even like a PJ Washington, we saw what he did in the playoffs for Dallas and they made that run. His shooting is kind of like falling off a little bit, but somebody roughly powerful oversized, shoot some open shots. That would do wonders for that team.
Worked so well, right? Yeah. The idea of Harrison Barnes. If Harrison Barnes was younger, would have been great. No, I mean, I don't expect
Scotty Barnes on their team.
I don't expect the Spurs to be any, to not look at their team realistically, but it is just kind of weird that they made it all the way to the finals. So it kind of just does feel, I don't know, a part of me, it's not that I'm rooting against them next year, but I'm really curious to see how they react as a team, because it's almost like that classic Super Bowl hangover thing, or that classic just like hangover season the next year of like the team that didn't get to the final, or that got to the finals but didn't win. It's always kind of a weird year for both teams, but especially the team that didn't win. And so I'm very curious to see how, and especially because this roster is so young, right? Like the youth at the end of the day did come back, and as mature as all of them are from playing, and it's not like a lot of them are winners. Steph Castle played for a national championship and whatever, but I just kind of am curious to see how the offseason goes and and the good news is it's the Spurs. As an organization, they're going to keep those players pretty even keel and everything, but I'm always curious to see how it happens, because I do think that these things creep in, and I think that there's an element of like even just hearing Wemby talk where it's like, it's going to piss me off until we get to the finals next year. And it's like, okay, so what happens if you don't? And like, what's the vibes going to be like if you hit some rocks on the road, or what's, I'm just curious. And I think that they're all going to respond great to it. But it's always like just something I'm keeping an eye on whenever, especially with a team that young, because they're very much giving like KD, Russ, Harden, Oklahoma City vibes a little bit in some ways, where it's like, this team is so young and talented. They really do need to do something. But I also feel I'm a little worried they took that for granted.
I do think it's good that I think they're in a slightly better position at least than that Thunder team is, because that Thunder team was pushing right up against the James Harden decision. And 100%. They showed he was off the team the very next season, and they didn't really get to build on that foundation, those 3 MVPs in the way that they would have liked to. The Spurs are lucky that all their guys are under contract next year, and so they all get a chance to get better. Castle gets a chance to get better. Dylan Harper gets a chance to get better.
But the Harper
Year
thing is
two,
interesting.
players improve so much from year 1 to 2. I'm terrified of year 2 Dylan Harper. He's
See,
gonna be a
this is where
fucking
I'm
monster.
curious, though. Dylan Harper is a really fascinating point for 2 reasons. One, sophomore slump, always a thing. So year 1 to year 2 is actually not. It's usually year 2 to year 3 that's like the biggest jump that I like. At least I feel like, because most times year 2, the sophomore slump can be real, like really real. But 2, the De'Aaron Fox of it all, because this really highlighted that Dylan Harper needs to play more. But De'Aaron Fox gets really expensive starting in July and also has 0 trade value currently. So I'm kind of curious, like, what that looks like, because Stephon Castle's his exit interview was really interesting because he was talking about like how Dylan Harper was like upset with his minutes at various points and like all this stuff. And I think it was.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as spicy as people were making it out to be. But I am kind of curious what that looks like next year, because now you have a young player who got a taste of the finals and was like actually very good in the playoffs and finals, and a vet who wasn't, who's now going to get paid a lot more money. And it's like that one player is ahead of schedule. And so now what do you do? And I feel like that's where like I'm kind of curious. I think they're all going to handle it like pros because they all seem to be. But you never know. Those dynamics always like come in, right, at some point. So kind of interesting.
Spurs, go get Trey Murphy. Go
Honestly,
do it. Free him.
Free him. Yeah.
Free
They
him.
need to do something for sure. But I don't know. The Spurs are going to be really interesting next year to watch, because not only obviously do they want to get back, but like teams like the Thunder are freaking like waiting. They're, tasting. They got a taste of their blood in their own mouth, and they don't like it either. And I'm sure neither do the Nuggets. I can't imagine Jokic just having a very fun time, right? Like
Houston will make
he's
some
personally
desperation
having
move
fun.
to try to get better too.
Yeah,
Seattle's trying to make some desperation move to try to get better. Denver's going to make a desperation move to try to get better. Minnesota's going to, like, all of these teams who have someone well into their 30s who's a vital player, they're like, hey, man, we got to fucking do something because our cap is disgusting. The Lakers are going to try to do something too. Everybody's going to be trying. Nobody's going to be looking at this Spurs and Thunder and be like, man, they're so young and they're so good. They got the next 5 years on lock. Let's wait. No, they're all trying to do some shit. Everyone in the West is like, they all have like aging stars and they're all trying to win one. Like one more for the guy. Or to some of these guys. Some of them will be the first one.
That old. Jokic is 31. He's not even old.
Yeah,
like, no, the team around him.
How much longer can Aaron Gordon still be athletic? You know what I mean?
That's the issue. It's not actually the star in this case. It's the roster around the star. Or there is a star who...
Because he's already hurt a lot. He's already hurt a lot.
No, for sure. And their offseason is going to be crazy because of the Peyton Watson situation and all that, but specifically. But just like in general, it's interesting because there's a lot of young star, like, because like the star themselves aren't necessarily the old ones. It's the team around them. But just in general, there's a lot of players and teams who are like kind of, they want to come for it. And it's like, they saw the Thunder could be beat. It's not like they can't be. And the Spurs can be beat too, right? They just watched that and they just watched the Knicks do it. And the Knicks were well equipped to do it, but there's a lot of other teams who are. So it's going to be really, I think the West is going to be a bloodbath again next year. I'm curious, the offseason is going to be really interesting because do you think, like, for instance, like the Knicks have a couple of free agents? Do you think Mitchell Robinson sticks around? Do you think someone else like throws him a bag?
I remember reading a few weeks ago that they're willing to dip into the second apron and really, really lock their shit in. So it wouldn't surprise me to see most of their very small number of free agents stick around. I don't know if they'll be able to keep like Shamet and Mitch and Jordan Clarkson or whatever, but I expect at least 2 of them back. I think the team will look pretty much the same. I don't think anything super crazy is going to happen. Yeah, I don't think they can take like a major swing. I think it'll probably be like the same dudes. If Mo Diawara has to play more next year, that's cool too. Like, he looks like he's got something. I don't know 100% what that's going to look like under a heavy minutes load or if he's a regular, but they got some guys. Tyler Kolek can play here and there.
Yeah, I don't think the Knicks are going to lose huge pieces. Like, losing Mitchell Robinson would kind of suck, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But he's probably the most likely player that they could lose, just if they don't want to. If another team offers him, it's just up to, I think at some point it'll be up to Mitchell Robinson, where it's like the Knicks will offer him what they can offer him. And then another
of the guys who can leave, he'd be the hardest to replace.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of bigs that big who are that athletic.
I don't know if the Spurs
have that good foot quickness and agility defensively. The free throws thing it's a thing, but like still a useful player offensively because he's a monster on the offensive glass. But yeah, no, the free throws thing is what it is.
Yeah, no,
if he could shoot free throws, he'd be a $30 million a year player and we'd be able to afford him. So
no, it's true.
It's almost a good thing that he can.
The Spurs don't have any notable free agents. The only big one is the Kamloops man. So they'll definitely go to revamp their bench. I think the Spurs, well, I think the Spurs depth kind of that we talked about being their superpower kind of thing that we talked about also wasn't, because it wasn't depthing very hard. I think kind of that conversation we had about how the Spurs feel like a team where they have the starter, and then they have like the Kirkland brand version of that starter coming up behind them. Whereas the Knicks have their depth is a bit more like versatile in terms of just different looks they can throw at you. And I think that was really proven with like how, Brunson went out, and it's like, well, we can throw Jose Alvarado
Yeah,
out there.
if Bridges,
He plays a totally different game. Or like when,
if Bridges
like
goes out, you can say, okay, can we put Shamet out there? Can we put Deuce out there? Or Alvarado? You can go double small guard like they did in that big comeback. They went Alvarado and Brunson together. The little tykes were out there. They were out there cooking, man.
The little tykes. The Rugrats. The Knicks Rugrats were there.
They do look like Rugrats, though. Brunson does have a little bit of a cartoon character aesthetic.
Oh my God. They really do. Actually, I saw the photo of Jalen Brunson in a suit, and he just looks like skinny prop Joe from The Wire.
I've heard people say he looks like a Red Fox, and I can't get that out of my head. That is absolutely killing me every single time. I can't unsee skinny prop Joe because of his hair, like just the braids, the way style of braids and everything, and the suit he was wearing like didn't fit very well, and so it just really gave skinny prop Joe. It was really funny, but so good. But actually, I might start rewatching that again soon. They gotta reboot it with Timothée Chalamet playing Ziggy.
Oh Lord, actually that'd be so good. I'd kind of like to see him get his face beat in a little bit. Not gonna lie, that'd be fun.
Chalamet was in the celebrations like he was on the fucking team, and you know what? I think he is on the team.
The funniest thing
when he stars as Tyler Kolek in the retelling of the Knicks 2025-26 season, it's gonna be some good shit, dude.
Yeah. No, but the Spurs depth didn't really depth, and that was, I think, the issue is that it. Like Luke Cornett could not play in the series essentially, and they had nobody else to come in and be. I think everything just got exposed where they're kind of building the plane out of Wemby, and that's okay. But there's some holes in that plane currently that need to be fixed.
I'm trying to think who's going to play Mike Brown in the movie. I'm sorry, that's all I can think.
Oh my God,
Cedric the Entertainer as Mike Brown,
like Forrest Whitaker.
It's crazy.
Shit.
He would give his character like a really weird twist. Like Mike Brown is just like an affable, like kind of goofy guy. Forrest Whitaker, we have him.
Honestly, I love Forrest Whitaker, but the only movie I can ever picture him in is Last King of Scotland, and it's really hard. Great movie. Love Forrest Whitaker. It's just unfortunately he's now typecast as a Ugandan dictator in my head.
When Michael B. Jordan is playing Jalen Brunson, even though they look nothing alike.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan's he's gonna play Brunson because he wants to be the main character, but he actually looks more like Mikal Bridges. Yeah, suddenly Mikal Bridges is the winger.
It'll be hard to find a Hollywood actor with Mikal Bridges' like body type.
Scarecrow. They're just gonna have to cast whoever played Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, them arms, man, they long. So, by the way, his live stream was incredible.
That was so good. I'm like, have another drink, Michael. You can do it, buddy. Have more, please.
Mikal was fried. It was incredible, man. Good shit.
OG looking baked out of his mind on Good Morning America also was amazing. I am sure he was just tired, but he looked stoned as fuck.
His teammates couldn't even look at him, man.
Honestly, if I won an NBA championship, I would also be baked out of my goddamn mind.
That's the fun thing about this team. There's a lot of personalities on that team.
Josh Hart got to open his $20,000 bottle, so good for him.
What was it?
It's a Burgundy. Yeah, so a Pinot Noir for the uninitiated.
Carl Towns was serving Raising Cane's, which is very different.
His fiance was hitting on him. So good.
By the way, I think Raising Cane's is nasty. I just think it's not good food. But if you ever live in the South, there's a version. There's an alternate. It's called Zaxby's. It's way better. If you like flavors and seasonings and spices and shit, go to Zaxby's.
So Josh Hart.
They do not sponsor this pod. This is just me telling you, if you happen to be in the state of Georgia, go. That's where you get your chicken fingers from.
Noted. Good to know. Yeah. So Josh Hart's was a 1995 Burgundy, and it was gifted to him by JJ Redick, and it is now worth $19,000. And he saved it for the opening.
That's more money than I have.
The post that we made on Instagram about how to drink like Josh, but for like significantly less money, because none of us have $20,000 to spend on a bottle of wine.
I have never in my life had $20,000.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
I'm paying rent in 2 cities right now, so I'm not going to get there anytime soon.
No, saving ain't going to be a thing that you're doing anytime soon there, bud. But
every bacon, egg, and cheese is tightening my wallet just a little more. Just a little more.
It's tough out there.
Love this city. Let's fuck it. The New York is the greatest city in the world propaganda. I was always like, I would hear it. And even as somebody who had always been like kind of fixated on New York, or someone was like, grandfather was from there, and I looked up to him and all that, and I always heard all the stuff. Fan of New York sports teams. I was always like, there's other great cities, man. Like Tokyo's probably super cool. My grandfather.
Oh, your grandfather.
But I'd be like, man, there's Tokyo, like London, Melbourne, Lagos, whatever. There's hella great cities out there. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, I get it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
I get
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think
It's almost. I also understand now why after Joakim Noah's failed stint with the Knicks, they asked him about it, and he said, "I was too lit to play in New York," and I get it now. I'm glad that I'm broke because I would be doing a horrible job of work if I was not.
fair enough.
I would be way too lit. It's too popping out here.
Honestly, that's
It's also for the best that I don't live in the city.
also fair. Speaking of getting lit, we're drinking wine. We're drinking different wine because it's super difficult to figure out what's sold in New York and also Alberta. So here we are.
This is from the deli across from where I work, but I got the America Prosecco was saying it is pretty solid. Pretty solid.
I think Rosé Prosecco is
had to have something with
superior.
bubbles. Something with bubbles to celebrate.
I think Rosé
I am a
Prosecco
champion.
is the superior. Yes, you are. Trying to get the dog on the podcast. Give me food. Wrigley, come on. Nope. Okay, he's running away. Just kidding. Dog did not want to join the podcast.
You hate to see it. I had to pay him.
Could have done numbers. Could have been a thing. Help us out, Wrigley God. Anyway.
I would have aggregated his worst moments and made him a public disgrace.
He has some hot takes, for sure.
Yeah.
He's working on a burn book currently, so.
Who isn't?
Yeah. Who isn't, right? Actually, the New York Knicks Wemby burn book t-shirt was very funny.
I also saw the fuck Wemby toast at the Knicks post-championship party. I didn't realize they hated that man like that. But I can see why JB does.
Yeah, I mean, so this is like, I guess that's not really serious, but to go to that, like Jared Weiss kind of talked about that, where it's like a lot of the aura farming stuff that Wemby gets accused of, like, and to some extent feeds into. Like, it also, I think, really gave the Knicks a lot of fuel, and that's something I don't think Wemby fully like understood. Like even like going at the Thunder with like the ethical basketball thing at the beginning of the year, like those kinds of things. It's like sometimes it's just, again, it's like not understanding what your words are going to mean to somebody else, or like not necessarily caring, but then it's like feeling the weight of what those words meant to somebody else. And the New York Knicks fucking hated him for a lot of the shit he said, and I don't really blame them. I would also hate his guts if I was a Knicks fan, to be honest. Like, Jacoby went on the Zach Lowe show and basically was like, I fucking hate Wemby, and like went off, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, he did.
Speaking of bold aura plays, James Dolan's aura gamble going to the twice this season. First he said, I expect them to win the championship. And then, oh man, what was the other one? Shit. I forgot what it was. I had it on this of my tongue. What did he say? Like somewhat recently.
The no sex for time.
It was when they won the NBA Cup. He's like, we're not putting the cup banner down because we only put like the real banners up.
Oh,
and that's some shit. Like they hadn't won a championship since '73, since like 2 decades before he became the owner, and he had the nerve to be like, we're not going to celebrate this NBA Cup. Yes, everyone was like, dude, just put the fucking banner up. We did something nice, and then they won the championship. Two James Dolan aura gambles paid off. I can't fucking believe it. This man even went up to them before the finals and said, hey man, if you got a significant other, I'll pay for the ring. If you don't got a significant other, get one and I'll pay for the ring. I was like, he said, go get you a girl just for the playoffs. Marry her, I'll buy her a ring. I'm like, that's great.
He's offering to buy the players prostitutes, man.
He was feeling himself. He said, go get married now.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
Don't have sex with it.
I don't even have words. Like, oh, but you know what? He's not a cheap shit, so I'll give him that. He will pay the team. He will pay when it's
cared about the team.
Yeah.
He has never been able to keep his hands off of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes it's like if you love something, you have to let it go, like for it to be successful. And he never quite got that memo, and now it worked. And it's unfortunate for teams that have handsy owners because they're going to see this and be like, ooh, and get involved and fuck up their teams even more. Looking at you, Ed Rogers, bitch.
A lot of teams are going to look at the blueprint and misread the blueprint and fuck it up. Like people were saying on Twitter, like Jalen Brunson going to get a lot of GMs fired. They're going to be like that 6'1" dude's a lot.
Well, it's super fascinating. We don't need to talk about the draft very much because honestly, I don't watch men's college basketball that much. But there are a lot of Jalen Brunson-esque like small guards in this draft. And Zach Lowe and Kyle Mann were talking about it today, and where it's like with the Clippers in particular, because they have Darius Garland already, and where their draft range is like the players that are kind of popping up in that seem to be like small guards and whatever. And it was a really interesting conversation, but it's kind of fascinating because if you think about it, like all of the teams that have won the championships, like so like the Nuggets, and then who fucking won after them? Wait, why can't I think of the 2024
Celtics?
Yeah, Celtics, and then and then Thunder, like they've all had they all look very different as teams. Like there is no blueprint at the end of the day. It's just solid team building. And also, honestly, shout out Leon Rose and World Wide West. They deserve some flowers. They did the patient thing and kept James Dolan kind of at arm's length and were like, hey, trust us. Just let us cook. We promise. We'll let you have your unhinged
Kept everyone
speeches
at
when
arm's
it's
length.
time.
He didn't even do interviews, man. He was dead silent.
No, but I just mean he kept like Dolan like out of the picture. He's done a good job of like keeping Dolan away from the team while also building a good team. And I mean, it's like, did they spend too much on Mikal Bridges? Probably. Did it still work out? Fuck yeah. Like, who cares? Sunk cost fallacy, bitch. Like, we won. At the end of the day, like Brian Windhorst says, once you've won a championship, you can never take it away, and all the decisions become right, because it's true. Like, whatever you did to get there, like, is your process is always going to be validated. Yeah, exactly. So I am super happy for you, specifically, because you're one of the only Knicks fan that I know on, like, a personal, deep enough level that I care about you. I know. The other Knicks fans, I know.
Happy for Spike Lee, a.k.a. the Pope of Brooklyn. Happy for
Mariska Hargitay, Olivia Benson.
All the former Knicks. Happy for Anne Hathaway. Benson. Happy for Timothy Chalamet.
I wish Anne Hathaway wasn't like 15 years older than OG Anunoby, because that'd be the best couple. That'd be the best celebrity relationship ever.
Happy for Tracy Morgan.
I'm so happy for Tracy and Tina Fey.
I'm happy that
cast of 30 Rock.
OG.
Really.
I'm happy OG made that tip in, because Josh Hart's missed layup almost killed Larry David.
It almost killed me. I screamed. I actually screamed at my TV. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Josh Hart? I'm like, you better sell your entire wine collection after that, sir. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve any of that shit. Like, if OG hadn't made that tip in, I genuinely was like, Josh Hart, you need to sell your wine. You don't deserve that collection. You don't deserve to own that bottle that JJ gave you. Like, no, put it away.
Would have swung the whole series if the Spurs didn't fuck it up. So
it is pretty crazy. Like, the Spurs can take this series one of two ways. One, like, yeah, you know what? We made some blunders. We got our asses handed to us. We got to get better. Or two, they're going to continue to look at it like we were winning the whole series until we weren't. And, it's just like, do you choose to be arrogant or not? Because it's a really weird finals. It was the closest 5-game series I can remember, like, genuinely.
5 games decided by a total of 12 points. And that's with the first game being a 10-point game.
Yeah.
4 double-digit comebacks for the Knicks. Insane.
Honestly,
it's insane.
I'm glad that the only game I missed was game 3, because, and it was the best part for me was that I had a feeling, well, one, I was going to be missing the game. I knew that. But two, I had a feeling the broadcast wasn't going to show the booze all that much. And I was talking to a friend of mine before the game where I was like, oh, damn, I have to miss the game because of like dragon boat practice. And I'm going to go explode my heart on the reservoir instead. And then I come back to my phone and I just have like a wall of messages from my friends sending me like Reddit videos of Donald Trump getting booed. And I was like, my friends know me. They understand me. I love them.
Oh, yeah. We booed him at the bar too.
I just, my rabbit hole on Twitter that night was finding videos of him getting booed across New York, and it brought me so much joy. I felt so warm inside. I just felt happy. Yeah, no, I don't know. The Knicks are a team that, like, in theory, I should definitely hate as like a Raptors fan, but I can't. I think because they were so stacked. Well, it's not. And it never really was. They're in the same
division, but they never hated each other, really.
No, and I mean, there was the weird lawsuit thing when Darko got hired, but
yeah, but that was a front office ownership
again
deal. Like, there was never like player beef. They're like fan base beef.
The Knicks the whole time Raptors were good, the Knicks were garbage. And now they're good and the Raptors are ascending again. But still, like, it's just, there's just never been like the bad blood there that, like, in theory there should
never
be.
Played in the playoffs. They played up was like, it was barely registered.
Like, and then you can't even have like the same sort of city hate where it's like, well, it's just easy to hate Boston. Like, it's just easy, or like Philly fans, like, it's easy to just be like, fuck you, Philadelphia. Like, whatever, right? It's easy to do that, especially Boston. But it's really hard to do that with the Knicks. There's just something really likable about them. They are.
I think it's because they're not like, if they were, let's say, use another New York team as an example. If they were the Yankees, if they were a New York team, 27 championships, they'd be fucking insufferable. But because the Knicks were like lovable losers for a long ass time,
Yeah, that's just
nobody outside of their typical city rivals have like real beef with them. Nobody outside of like Philly, Boston, you know.
No, this is true. For sure. And and the players on the
Even
Knicks.
Lakers fans don't really hate the Knicks like that. You know what I mean? Like the LA New York thing doesn't even like.
No. The LA New York rivalry is more like rap and just like more of a like grassroots basketball thing. Like, you know? Like once it gets to the pros, it's like whatever. Doesn't matter.
Sour grapes over the Dodgers moving, I guess, you know, like baseball.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. I don't know. The Knicks are very likable. To be honest, this was a really good finals from like a Go Sports perspective because I think I was always sort of cheering for the Knicks because of OG and then also like you, like honestly, like just having a friend who's like a fan of that team and like you are my closest friend who's a Knicks fan. So I'm like, you know, happy for you. Like I want to cheer for you. But I wouldn't have been mad if the Spurs had won. But the longer the series went, I was kind of like, I think I would have been upset if the Spurs had won in the end because I was like, by the end of the series, I was like weirdly sick of them. But it was just, but at the same time, stepping back, I'm like, that Spurs team is fun. Like, I love Stephon Castle. He's great. I love him so much. My favorite genre of photos is him trying to put hats on his pineapple. Like, it's awesome. But
yeah, there's like, there are two teams that are like fun for different reasons. The Spurs, it's a bunch of like really young, like athletic, like kind of reckless, like just dogs. And then the Knicks is just like, here's a bunch of goofy goobers. You know what I mean? Like 100%. A bunch of just like, and so you've got like this collection of like these really awesome, like high drafted, like super cool players in the Spurs. And you got like Friendship FC over there in New York. You know, just the power of like the Care Bears are over there. Just like
Care Bear stare. Look, it's true though. It's actually
a bunch of sweeties.
It's actually Friendship BC, not FC. It's the Friendship
basketball.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I'm happy. I don't know. I'm just happy for like, and I'm. It's funny because like the Knicks celeb row more than any other celeb row is like the most dedicated celeb row, and so you're like weirdly happy for celebrities, even though like I don't generally feel things.
They're
good
there.
towards.
They're on a Tuesday game in fucking like January. They're there. Yeah. I've seen Tracy Morgan step out and watch the same 17-win team that I was watching.
Well, it's the fact that Ben Stiller's Twitter account forever has only been about the Knicks. He only tweets about the Knicks and like occasionally Severance or maybe like a project he has out. But like, yeah, it's for every like one work related tweet, there's like 50 Knicks tweets. This is great. Like, this is what I want out of my celebrities. Like, I have never been one of the Toronto fans who was like, yay, Drake, because but I don't have the connection to Toronto, I think, too. That also matters specifically. I actually kind of hate Toronto as a city, but that's different. And so it's like that, but that's like the Ben Stiller, the whatever, like that's what I want out of my celebrities. Like if Drake was that kind of Raptors fan, I'd probably feel differently about him as a fan. But the fact that he's never actually in his courtside seats until it's a game that's like going to be on TV and he'll be on TV, it's like, well, fuck you, man. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, and he dabbled as a fan of many other teams before.
Exactly.
Really said once the Raptors,
Kevin Durant's number
made a championship run.
He's got tattoos.
Yeah,
he's got
tattooed. He's got Shea on him. None of them players play for the Raptors.
Pretty sure he also has Steph Curry tattoo as well. Wrigley, my brother.
Clout demons.
Make a choice.
Not real fans. Shout out to Ben Steeman. He's gonna hit like.
There's a dog nose in the image there. Oh, we got Wrigley in the sort of. We got a nose.
That meant Ben Stiller was in the huddle shooting footage on his cell phone.
My favorite, like, it wasn't a Nike image, but it was like a Nike, like the ad style that they do. It was like, it was like Ben here, or like it was just like I can't remember how it was, but it was like basically that Nike ad about Ben Stiller, like an old photo of him at the Garden, and then like now. It was awesome. I don't know. I actually also low-key like Ben Stiller's one of my favorite actors. I love him. He's one of those dudes that I don't go out of my way to necessarily like watch all of his movies, but every time he's been in a movie, I'm like, man, Ben Stiller's so good. I'm happy for him. He's just like he's one of those, all of the Knicks celebrities are also people that are just like kind of easy to root for. So.
When Josh Hart pops up in the next season of Severance, I'll be seated. I
still have to watch Your Friends and Neighbors for the OG cameo. I haven't been able to get into that show. I don't know why. I want to.
I gotta check out Devil Wears Prada 2 for Cat. Gotta do it.
I still have to see it. I'm still so mad.
Nick's only lost one game since it debuted, man.
Devil Wears Prada is like genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time, and I still haven't seen the second one, and it's just kind of atrocious. It's embarrassing on my part. I need to fix that.
There's this group of people right now. This group of people, Anne Hathaway, Spike Lee, Zoran Mamdani, the Arsenal Knicks combo, myself also, who are just just shitting rainbows right now. It's
If
incredible.
only you could be part of their club, like officially part of the club.
I asked Zoran if I could crash on his couch, and he did not respond.
Socialist mayor my ass. Just kidding.
I know.
Disappointing.
It's fucked up. I bet he got a nice couch.
He probably does. Yeah. I'm sure he does. How dare he? That's just rude.
Damn shame.
Tisk. Well, James Dolan should let you sleep on his couch next. I'm sure he has an even nicer couch.
I don't want to be there.
Honestly, yeah, actually, he would. It's creepy.
Oh,
Based on how many of the Epstein
anyway.
list was at Game 3, I don't know that going to James Dolan's house seems like a bad idea.
I don't know who he hang out with. I don't need to know who he hang out with. But anyway.
No one wants to know. Well, we do, based on the attendance of Game 3, but we don't want to think about it. Honestly, it's not a surprise that Knicks lost that game. My favorite thing was the number of Knicks fans outside burning sage. I'm like, yes, good. Smudge, please. Smudge the shit out of MSG.
It took a few quarters in the next game for it to kick in, but it kicked in.
It kicked
But
in.
yeah, man.
I actually thought it might be having the reverse effect at first. I was like, Knicks?
Yeah.
Hello?
Double. I don't know what the fuck happened, but yeah, man, shit. Well,
Might have been a
NBA
curse.
season is now
Over.
over. The summer of New York continues. It's gonna be super cracking. First, I guess as my final thought, like Arsenal winning the league was shocking, but it felt like it built like the last several years of coming up second 3 years in a row, like built up to it, and it felt earned, and it felt like something that really could happen. The Knicks, going from like second round of playoffs to conference finals to the finals and winning it, it felt earned. It's still shocking. It still feels unbelievable, but it felt like it built up to it. It felt like it was earned. If the U.S. wins the World Cup, I'll assume that I died a month ago and that everything that's happened since then was a dream. There's just no fucking way.
Cup thought to put past you that, I don't know, I had this thought yesterday, but like, obviously I'm kind of obsessed with like how Lawrence, Kansas has just adopted Algeria. It's been awesome. And it's like one of those things where I think it's probably like one of the best stories about the World Cup is just like random fans starting. But I also think it's something very uniquely like North American, like Canada, US specific. And I mean that in the sense that while we both have teams that are competing in this tournament, neither of those teams are as fans, we're like, we would obviously love it if they won, but we're not expecting that in any kind of way. And so it's really easy to sort of also like throw your support behind another team because like, why would I not have a backup team? And it's like, I don't know, there's just like something natural about adopting another country, like in the World Cup, if you're a North American fan, because like, we just haven't had teams that are good ever. And even now that we have teams that are good, it's still like easy to want to cheer for another team. And I think that's just like such a uniquely North American thing. And I love it. It's really cool that we've been able to show such like amazing hospitality while also because it's like, yeah, we love our team and we're cheering for them, but also like you're here and that's cool. So I love it. Shout out to Stan Hurd, who made the world's largest Nigerian flag out of grass in Kansas. It's fucking awesome.
Algeria?
Yeah, Algeria.
Yeah. But yeah, the thing about the US, man, is like obviously there's a lot of dumb shit they've done in hosting this World Cup, but I think one of the interesting things about the US as a World Cup venue is that whatever country comes down here, there's a city somewhere where there's like an enclave of those people. So even if the fans can't make it out, there's fans already here.
And even if there isn't,
I saw an Uzbek bar that was doing watch parties out here. I'm like, everybody lives in this
But that's the
country.
thing, is like even outside of the big cities when there aren't necessarily like a large number of that population, it's just people being like excited. It's like, fuck yeah, you chose our city.
Sometimes, man.
No, it's
if you're
true.
a Bosnian,
Like,
deep
that's been a thing in part of the thing in Lawrence is there's some Algerians who do live there, like not very many, but a few.
Yeah.
And then
the idea is that
Algerian
like
fans who came
they don't
to
have to
town
travel
walk
from outside the country in that city that the team's playing in, but they're in the country somewhere, and so they don't have to fly from. If you're a fan from like, let's say if you're like you're a fan for like the Korean team, you don't have to fly all the way from Korea because there's Koreans in LA, there's Koreans in New York, there's Koreans in Toronto. Like you don't have to necessarily come from all the way back in the mother country. So there's people out here rooting for everybody, and you can always do something attendance wise.
It's also created like a really interesting like internal kind of turmoil for like a lot of fans like who did choose to cheer for teams. Like for instance, like I mean, I typically just cheer against the colonizer in the situation if possible. But if not, then if I had to choose a team, I'll usually choose like I'll cheer for the Dutch because that's where my family's from. But it's created like I've seen that a ton. So our work has this thing called Music League and it's whatever. But one of the rounds was like posting like your goal celebration song and then like what team the bonus points were like what team you're cheering for in the World Cup. And it was super interesting because everyone was like Canada. But, and it's because we all have like that team that we cheer for because it's like our heritage, or like you know, married somebody from that country, or like whatever. There was just like so many reasons for why you'd cheer for a million other countries. So yeah, it is like kind of fun. It's added a really unique element to the World Cup that I don't think has been experienced. Whereas like, because typically it's hosted in places that do have like a singular like national interest, like rooting interest. So
Right.
it's been very fascinating. And
Well,
yeah,
it's been fun.
shout out to Lawrence, Kansas for that, because honestly, it's been the greatest story of the entire World Cup, in my opinion. It's just like seeing like Rock Chalk Algeria is just great. I love it. It's so good. I wish it was.
Still.
I still fuck you. It's really funny though that you say that, because
Lawrence is the last time.
the entire time I've been thinking about this, I've been like, man, I wish this was in Manhattan, because Chris would be way more into it.
It probably wouldn't happen in Manhattan if we be real. But,
Probably.
but if I'm being honest, Lawrence is a nicer town.
It seems like a nice town.
I'm still K-State over KU all day though. But like, yeah,
Well,
Lawrence
always.
is pretty chill. Yeah.
It's just funny. Anywho, yeah, might as well wrap her up here. We will be back with WNBA stuff down the line. The season continues. The Aces got smoked last night by the Wings. That's fun. And yeah, lots more to talk about. Also, hopefully some guests. So stay tuned.
Yep. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Find us on @wineanddimepod on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc.
Yeah. If you want to drink wine like Josh Hart, but spend not $20,000 on a bottle, check our TikTok and Instagram. It's there. We do things like that too. So cool. Well, until next time.
Later.